You know, it's kind of great when you are doing well at something and you feel kind of good about it. You know, you're seeing advancement, you're seeing progress, right? And look, I don't begrudge anybody from seeing progress and getting excited about it. But there's a couple of people in this primary race who's been seeing a little bit of progress, and they're getting totally out of hand. They're starting to believe their own press. One of those people is Amy Klobuchar. What did I call her? Amy Crowbar Jaw. That's it, Amy Crowbar Jaw. Because when she talks, sometimes it's like she got a crowbar stuck in her mouth. It's like, gah, gah, gah.
Are you ready for all the scrutiny that comes in running for president?
Yes, I am. I have grit, as you could see yesterday. Not everyone would have stood out there where I looked like I was getting older by the minute as the snow mounted on my hair. And I am someone that throughout my life has overcome adversity, whether it was my dad struggling with alcoholism his whole life, whether it was my daughter being born, she couldn't swallow. We didn't know if she was going to live. She spent a year and a half with a tube in her stomach, and that's how we fed her. And we just kept going, and we rose to that occasion, and she is now living in New York City.
And she sounds like she's in pain, like she's talking through the crowbar. I want to be president, and I fight for presidency. I fight to be in it, and I'm really good. And it's like, and my dad was a drunk alcoholic, and he's 90, and he's so old, and he beat me with the bottle, the muscatel, the wine, and Boone's Farm, and E&J, his dad, he drank and drive. So, Amy Klobuchar has been on a rip and tear because she went from 2 points to 4 points, and now we got to hear about how great and viable and electable she is all of a sudden. Well, here goes the clip of Amy Klobuchar discussing her chances of winning and why she thinks she's not doing better than Pete Buttigieg.
Two new recent polls have shown that the moderate candidate who appears to be breaking into the top tier in Iowa is actually South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Recent comments in the New York Times suggest that you don't believe that Mayor Buttigieg is qualified to be the president. Am I reading that wrong?
He's had a different experience. We should be able to have those debates about candidates without being accused of being negative. All this is are questions were asked. And the last point I made in that article was that of the women on the stage, I'm focusing here on my fellow women senators, of Senator Harris, Senator Warren, and myself. Do I think that we would be standing on that stage if we had the experience that he had? No, I don't. Maybe we're held to a different standard. But my goal here is to get the best candidate to lead the ticket. I believe that's me. That is why I have been able to attract the kind of support that I have in the early states. And I am doing this the right way, running a grassroots campaign.
Lord have mercy. All right, so you heard Crowbar Jaw, Amy Crowbar Jaw, say how she feels that Mayor Pete is not very much qualified. Like he's qualified, but he's not more qualified than her, or she's more qualified than him. And now we get into a qualified pissing contest about who's more qualified. Okay, so look, and I happen to think that she probably has a valid argument to make about her qualifications, but is that really how people decide who's going to be president or who they like? It's not how we decide who. That's too logical. People rarely sit down and decide things based on these types of measurements. Candidates have to speak to the constituency. They have to speak to the voter. They have to instill a sense of something that moves the voter into believing that this person is going to go in and do the thing that they say they're going to do. Amy Crowbar Jar does not instill that type of confidence. I'm sorry, Amy, you just don't. I think you already know that. I think you have an inkling of this. Look, a lot of us are in relationships with people right now. Did we choose the person who was better on paper to be with based on who their mother was or who their father was or what side of town they came from or how many degrees they had? Or did we go with who we loved, who we believed in, who made us feel special, who we enjoyed making feel special. These are all the things that move people to make decisions, not what Klobuchar is suggesting here. Nah, this doesn't work. And it's not how people are built. And I think she understands that. I mean, you can't be an adult, functioning adult, and not already know this and be in politics. This is the reason why we hug the babies, or this is why they hug the babies, and why they do the things they do on the stump, and when they bring up the stories and they weave in their own personal diatribe about experiences, because they're trying to endear themselves to the people because they already know it. So Amy Klobuchar is being disingenuous just with this entire argument. It's garbage, folks. Though technically she's right about maybe having more experience. She's been in the Senate. Mayor Pete's been the mayor of some small place where most people don't like him. I heard someone say that Pete won the mayoral race twice there with like 10,000 votes. What I'm trying to tell you is I got more subscribers on YouTube than he got votes in his race in South Bend. So stop telling me how great a leader he is. I'm a greater leader than Mayor Pete. I got people to sign up and I'm giving them nothing except video content. All right, but the thing that's really egregious about this clip I just played you is not even that part. Nah, the most egregious part is when she tries to make it seem like it's because of sex. I don't know if you noticed or not, Amy, but it's hard to say that about the first gay candidate that's really viable for the presidency. I mean, he's kind of gay. So he's got to strike against him. You got to strike against you. Why don't we just put the strikes together and everybody just go out here and do the best job we can do? Tell him to pull his pants up, you pull your pants up, and just go out there and fight for it. Why do we got to rely on the tropes? Why do we got to rely on the stuff that the identity crisis? Another thing, Elizabeth Warren is the front runner, so she kind of decapitates your whole argument. I don't even think the kids should be around to visualize your argument as he gets decapitated by reality. Elizabeth Warren is a woman, is she not? She's kicking butt in the polls right now, is she not? Is she considered the front runner, or at least the top 2 or top 3? Then why are we even having this conversation about how sexist America is if she's currently beating or tied with or whatever with the top? Just because it's not you, huh? Well, she's not me, so this is about you. It's not about what you're trying to say it's about, which is you're saying it was sexism. Well, then that would apply to all sexes. Hey, I didn't let Kamala Harris get away with this. I'm not going to allow Amy Klobuchar to get away with it. No, you can't cry foul. And why weren't you crying this when you were down, when you were only 2 points in the polls? Now that you're 4 points in the polls, now you're like, I want to get some more points. What else can I do? What can I throw against the wall that might help me tick up a couple of points? Guys, there's so much about Amy Klobuchar's record that hasn't been touched on. Yeah, everyone talks about Mayor Pete and the black sheriff, or the black sheriff, first black sheriff in South Bend who got fired by Pete. Everyone talks about him, but not many people talk about all the crap about Amy Klobuchar's record. Yeah, no one talks about the dozens of cop murders on civilian murders, many of those which were people of color, that Amy Klobuchar did not prosecute. That she did not fight to prosecute, that Amy Klobuchar looked the other way on when she was a prosecutor in Minnesota. Those things matter. And if that becomes common knowledge, you think you're doing bad with the blacks now. You think you're doing bad with our allies now. You're going to be doing horrible. You're going to be doing worse than as bad as Pete Buttigieg. But see, for some reason, no one's felt the need to tell the truth about Amy Klobuchar. No one's talking about, I mean, look, we heard the story about the fork eating with a comb or throwing stuff at your staff, being horrible to work for, about you being a complete jackass, drunk off authority, being a major prick. If that was Pete, he'd probably be done right now. Let's keep it 100. I mean, guys who are bad bosses, a lot of people hate them, but a woman who's a bad boss, people hate them, but maybe they feel like, maybe she probably had to put up with some jackasses. I don't know. But we'll never really know, will we? All I'm saying is if your record gets exposed, Amy Klobuchar, for what it is, your record in Minnesota, you'll be lucky to maintain being a senator in Minnesota. You'd be fortunate to keep your day job. To that point, here goes a clip of Amy Klobuchar being asked to stand up on her own record and look at her responses about her own record.
So you were a former prosecutor, and so just like any candidate, what would be your responses to criticisms of your record as a
Sure.
prosecutor?
So I've gone through some of the good things that I've done. It is important to note that when I was there, I didn't know this until we started looking into this because when people raise issues, is that actually African-American incarceration rate, prison incarceration, went down 12% during my 8 years, which doesn't really surprise me because of all the work we did in the white-collar cases and other cases and how much we worked to expand drug court and some of these other diversion programs. One of the things that I would have changed that the time I was there, different than when you're there, is back when I was there, all police-related shootings went to a grand jury. And that was just what we did. Everyone did it in our state. The idea was, well, then you'll insulate from politics if you do it that way. And I wouldn't do it that way anymore. I can't say there's one case that would have been done differently. I just think it's better to take responsibility and accountability yourself, and especially with those big cases, to take those on yourself. So that's a change I would have made. I think some of these sentencing changes that we're seeing federally, you could brought down to the state level. When I first got there, actually, one of the big things that I heard from the African-American community, and later we worked together on things like the white-collar crimes and the eyewitness ID and the DNA review. But when I first got there, there were a bunch of cases of African-American kids that had been killed in their neighborhoods, and no one had put the resources into investigating them or figuring out, well, who did it, and then, or in some cases, taking them on. A little boy named Byron Phillips, who was shot on his porch, just sitting out there on a summer day. And we actually started putting his face on billboards with his mom wanted to do it, that said, you know who did this, tell us. And we were able to put together a case and prosecute the person that did it. Because they said, how come all these cases are being prosecuted and handled? And as you know, it's always a mix of this. In certain neighborhoods and not others. A little girl named Taisha Edwards, who was doing her homework at the kitchen table, straight A student.
Raise your hand if you might understand why Amy Klobuchar might not be on the high list or the short list of people that people want to vote for. She was asked a very simple question, Johnson. Defend your record. And what did she do? Throw out anecdotal one-offs on cases that were high profile, which obscure the fact that there weren't that many cases of little kids getting shot in their bedroom doing their homework. Most of the cases that Amy Klobuchar handled were cases of nonviolent drug possession, and she threw the book at them. She was a broken windows prosecutor for every damn thing, give them the maximum for every charge prosecutor. That's who Amy Klobuchar was. Now, this guy interviewing her, I've heard good things about him. I don't see them in this interview. He knows that. He knows that was her M.O. Tough on crime, tough as nails, lock them up extended amounts of time, charge the max on everything. The reason why it was down, cases were down, is because people were pleading out. That's the reason why. The other thing about Amy Klobuchar that does not instill confidence is the fact that she uses a tactic that, like some other politicians. Don't get me wrong, she hasn't invented this, but she does it to great effect. It's called ear fatigue. Yeah, it's where she keeps ramming on about something so long that you no longer give a damn about what the answer is. She runs you in circles and up the hill and down the block. Oh, I dropped my keys. Then she go back and picks up her keys. Then she stops by a neighbor's house and shoots the breeze. Then she comes back around the corner. Then she just stops at the stores to pick up some cookies. Then she drives back around the block. Then she walks the doggy. Then she sits down and she's like, where were we at again? And by that time, you're like, I don't know where we were, but I'm not voting for you. And she's like, cool, just don't make me talk about these unpleasant things again. Because she's not there to win your vote. When Amy Klobuchar is asked a tough question, she's not thinking about winning your vote. You know what she's thinking about? Not losing more votes. It's a despicable display. Verbal diarrhea to the max. Amy Klobuchar's prosecutorial record is horrible. Similar to Kamala Harris's prosecutorial record is horrible. Their job was to lock up people, make money for the state, and they did that by locking up black and brown people, poor people in general. That's the deal. That's the rap. Forget all the other crap you hear when she talks. And when that becomes similar to Tulsi Gabbard calling out Kamala Harris, destroying Tulsi Gabbard destroying Kamala Harris with truth, reality of her own record. When that happens to Amy Klobuchar, she will be a figment of your imagination. She will be a ghost. She will be a walking dead person. She will be a zombie. She will no longer be in this race. It should have already happened up to this point. The fact that Amy Klobuchar and Kamala Harris are still in this race, and that a stop and frisk mayor of a major city, very diverse city, where a lot of black people suffered a lot of pain behind these bastards, get to run and people consider them viable, shows the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party. It is what it is, Johnson. May Amy Klobuchar meet defeat sooner than later so she can stop wasting our damn time. Did you enjoy that content? I know you did. You got great taste, Johnson. What can I say? Become a member of the Tim Black Wolf Pack today right here on YouTube, or go to patreon.com, Tim's Take Live, and you'll get free stuff, special stuff, secret stuff. Do it today. Wolf Pack.